Welcome to Unapologetically Anxious Me, Confessions of a Haitian Girl, the podcast where I blend life, love, sex, and relationships with mental health, social issues, and history, all from my very unabashed perspective. Join me, Joe Ciceron, as we unravel the power of vulnerability, celebrate storytelling, our history, and connect with incredible individuals who have tales to share. Let's dive deep into our essence and the narratives that mold us, because in this space, we believe in the magic of authenticity and the beauty of being unapologetically you. Welcome to another episode of Unapologetically Anxious Me, Confessions of a Haitian Girl. I'm your host, Joe, and today we're going to dive deep into a conversation that I've found fascinating for years. Today we're tackling a sensitive and yet crucial topic, the history of slut-shaming Black women, and why there's such a strong emphasis on discussing body count today, both socially and in popular rap songs like Lotto's Sunday Service. This conversation is so important for understanding our past and how it shapes our present. So let's get into it. Slut-shaming is a term that refers to criticizing or demeaning a woman for her real or perceived sexual activity. While slut-shaming affects women of all backgrounds, it has a unique and deeply rooted history when it comes to Black women. To understand this, we need to go back to the era of slavery and colonization. During slavery, Black women were hypersexualized and dehumanized. Enslaved women were often portrayed as innately promiscuous and lascivious, a stereotype that justified their sexual exploitation by enslavers. This hypersexualization was a tool of control and oppression, stripping Black women of their dignity and autonomy. These harmful stereotypes didn't disappear with the abolition of slavery. They evolved and persisted in different forms over the years. Fast forward to the 20th century, and these stereotypes were reinforced through media and entertainment. Black women were often depicted as either the Jezebel, a sexually promiscuous and immoral woman, or a mammy, a desexualized caretaker. Both stereotypes were limiting and dehumanizing, denying Black women the right to their own sexuality and agency. As a result, Black women have long been judged more harshly for their sexual behavior compared to their white counterparts. This double standard is deeply ingrained in our society and has significant consequences. It affects how Black women are perceived and treated in various spheres of life, from personal relationships to professional environments. So why is there so much emphasis on discussing body count today, particularly among Black women? For those unfamiliar, body count refers to the number of sexual partners someone has had. In many social settings and popular culture, there's a notable focus on keeping this number low, as if it's a badge of honor or a measure of one's worth. This fixation can partly be traced back to the historical slut-shaming we've discussed. In an attempt to combat the negative stereotypes and prove their respectability, many Black women have internalized the idea that their value is tied to their sexual purity. By keeping their body count low, they can distance themselves from these harmful Jezebel stereotypes and assert their dignity and morality. Popular songs often reflect and amplify these societal values. Take, for instance, Lotto's Sunday Service. In the song, there are references to body count and sexual behavior that mirror the ongoing discourse around these topics. While some might see this as just music industry's obsession with sex, it's also a reflection of deeper societal pressures and judgments. In hip-hop culture, which has a significant influence on mainstream perceptions, discussions about body count and sexual behavior can be both empowering and restrictive. On one hand, there's an element of reclaiming sexuality and asserting control over one's body. But on the other hand, there's a risk of reinforcing the same double standards and judgments that have plagued Black women for centuries. The pressure to keep a low body count isn't just about avoiding slut shaming. It's also about navigating respectability politics. Respectability politics is the idea that marginalized groups can gain social acceptance and equality by adopting the behaviors and values of the dominant group. For Black women, this often means adhering to strict standards of sexual morality to counteract negative stereotypes. However, respectability politics can be a double-edged sword. While it might offer some protection against slut shaming, it also reinforces the idea that a woman's worth is tied to her sexual behavior. It limits Black women's freedom to express their sexuality on their terms and perpetuates the same oppressive standards they're trying to escape. So where do we go from here? How do we move past these harmful stereotypes and pressures? First, it's crucial to challenge and dismantle the historical and societal norms that have led to the slut shaming of Black women. This involves educating ourselves and others about the history of these stereotypes and how they continue to impact us today. We also need to support and amplify voices that promote sexual liberation and body positivity. This includes artists, activists, and influencers who advocate for more inclusive and empowering views of sexuality. By celebrating diverse expressions of sexuality and rejecting respectability politics, we can create a more supportive environment for all Black women. Another important step is fostering open and honest conversations about sexuality within our communities. By talking openly about these issues, we can break down the stigma and shame associated with sexual behavior. It's important to create spaces where Black women feel safe to share their experiences and perspectives without fear of judgment. Finally, we must advocate for media representation that reflects the full spectrum of Black womanhood. This means supporting content that portrays Black women as complex, multifaceted individuals with diverse experiences and identities. When we see ourselves represented authentically on screen and in music, it can have a powerful impact on how we view ourselves and each other. Remember, our worth is not defined by our body count or any measure of sexual behavior. We are valuable, worthy, and deserving of respect simply because we exist. By rejecting harmful stereotypes and embracing our full humanity, we can create a future where all Black women are free to be authentically themselves. Let's continue this important conversation and support each other in our journey towards empowerment and liberation. That's all for today's episode of Unapologetically Anxious Me, Confessions of a Haitian Girl. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing this space with me. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast if you enjoyed today's discussion. And until next time, stay strong, stay true to yourself, and remember, you are more than any number. Remain unapologetically you. Bye!